Hello everyone, this is my first time recording a tutorial, and today I'm gonna talk about stylized lighting. Recently I'm doing some research on that, and I found there are a few tutorials talk about the movements and the shape of the lighting. And recently I'm doing a scene like this, a very simple and rough test. Okay, let's firstly break down what kind of elements we have now. And in this scene, we have some big strike like this. It's like more like charging, and from top to bottom. And here are some small lightnings. And on the character surface, we can also see some very subtle lighting on his surface wrapping. Okay, let's start with the basic line. Now we have a line, it has 50 points here. And for the reference, it's basically a noise. Simply add some noise on it. Let's say mounting. It's an attribute noise around position. And remember to hit this off. Boom. We have a lightning right now. And maybe NPT to let's close it to 0.2. Okay. Element size, make it more twist. And hit an animation. Yay! That's a simple line, and that's the most simple lighting you can have. And when we're looking at this, we can immediately find some issues. For example, the bottom top point here and the top point here, we don't want it like a move and influenced by the noise. We want it stay on the original point. In that way, we can have more control. And let's have a quick look at it here. It's also a very quick setup, can be done within 10 minutes. It also start with a simple line. Yep. And in here we can see that's when after we add the noise, you can see the point is anchored on the original point, didn't influenced by the noise. So we are setting a float here. It's a float, and we have a ramp here. So it's all based on curve view. This attribute we can output from resample. And in here, basically we are saying at 0 and 1, the blend attribute gonna be 0 and 0. So it's gonna give the top point 0 and the 0.0. And we wanna use that blend attribute to multiply the noise. And let's have a quick look at how we're gonna do the noise. Attribute VOP. So let's dive into attribute VOP. First, a noise. Add a position to the noise. So we wanna input the 3D position and output the 3D noise. And let's say 3D add, and add it to original position. And let's have a good preview. Yeah, now we have it, but it wouldn't change by time. Yep. And so in here, let's say for the input and 3D noise, because we want to add time into that as well, so the position is a vector 3D, and the time is a float, and let's say vector to vector 4. In that way, we change this to 4D. Okay. And now if we hit play, yeah, it's changing my time now. And it's the same result with what we did in mountain. And now we're gonna multiply the attribute we made. Let's hit bind. And we wanna input the blend attribute. Blend. Okay, and multiply. And remember, put chunk list first. It's gonna tell it this is a 3D vector. Okay. And yeah, we get that. And we also want to have more control on the speed. So let's input a parameter called speed. And multiply by time. And also we want to promote all those parameters. Let's go out. Now the speed is 0, so by default it wouldn't change anything. But if we pull out like this, okay, now we have a nice movement. It's changing by time. And we can do anything we want to have a full control. And basically that's what I'm doing here. It's exactly the same thing. After we set up the noise, we want to get the shape. And if we have a look at like a 2D artist, what they did on FX Lightning, it's like they want this kind of the width is changing. And so let's set up this width first. And in here you can see I hit a ramp, and we don't wanna this point and the top point, we don't wanna those stuff have width, so it's 0, and in the middle I just randomly set up a shape I like, because for the lightning I feel it's more like this kind of feeling. So it's by default I did something like this, and after that if we look at this, when it's bending, the more it bends, it pushes more on the width, and that gives an interesting shape for the 2D feel, for animation feel in Lightning. So I did something here. So let's have a look at this. Yeah, this is before, and this is after. You can see I have more this kind of feeling on here. So in here I output the tangenting attribute as the n. So if we hit normal here, we can see it's basically the direction of those points. And then on here, because we don't want we still don't want those stuff. If we don't want the original point, 0 point, and the top point influenced by the shape. So I set the top and the bottom point as 0, but in the middle, I wanna get a number of how it bent. And what I did in here is using normal. Using the normal here, and the normal of next point. So it's calculate the distance. You can do something else. You can use a dot product to do that, but distance for me is quite simple, so I'm just using that way. And I'll put this to an attribute. And if we have a visualize on it, okay, you can see here it have a high value, and the button in the bottom is 0, like here. and for those normals doesn't really changes, it have a low value. Okay, and I'm gonna multiply this result with the original width, and I set up a scale. I can decide how much I want. And this add, I just want to add more width to every point, so I can have some control on the shape. So in that way, I get those kind of interesting bend shape. Until now, it's still a line here. It's still a curve. So we want to make it to a polygon. And polywire, you can see, yeah. And I prefer it to be a triangle. It have more sharp edges here. And in here, I just set wire radius equals width. So this is basically how I make shape, and then the rest is about timing and the movement. Okay, so for the reference, you can see it's actually not changing that much. It's not really changing by time. It's pretty static because it's really fast, and the normal people can barely see the movement. I mean, we can also do the movement, but I think in this case, just make it static, and I think that's enough. It's really quick, and the rest of it is gonna change from. It's gonna change the width, getting thinner. It's fading. That kind of feeling can let us know, okay, it's a lightning, and it's super quick. So in here, by default, we get a shape like this. Okay, let's bypass it first. I wanted the lightning keep in there, but I wanted the width slowly get weak, and it's gonna create a fade view. So let's dive into the solver, and you can see it's by default it's pretty simple. By default, I just merge the input and the previous frame, so you will get this kind of pattern. But we wanted the lighten get weak, so it's pretty easy. Set an attribute wrangle, and we said every frame it's gonna the previous frame gonna weak, so every frame is gonna multiply 0.8, and then you can see, okay, it's fading, but now the result is pretty uniform. We don't want people to see it's one lightning changing by time, so let's directly set up the speed here. You can say it's 10. Okay, now we can have some more interesting variance. And another thing is we don't want it happens every frame. Every frame one lightning emits is too much. So you can do it in popnet, or you can do a solver, you can do something else to achieve that. You can adjust the source. But what I'm doing here, I'm just lazy. I set up a frequency here. What I say is add frame, and to output the modulo, and it's divided by this integer. For example, I say it's 4. The output gonna be the modulo, the frame divided by 4. That means only if the frame's modulo equals to 0, I keep the point. It gave me the result of every 4 frames I emit once. So it's like this. And I can set up like a 10. Yep. And let's see the result now. Okay, it's quite close to the reference now. And polywire at last. And another interesting thing is because we didn't delay the point here, they're just getting lower widths, but they're not really disappeared. They're still here. So when we want to delay to the point, if the width lower than the threshold, it's gonna remove. And it should be after the polywire. If you did before that, let's see. You can see it's out after it delayed the point, boom, it's gonna connect again because it's in the same polygon, and we don't want to let that happen. You can see because this point is deleted, it's gonna connect again. Yep. And so after it's become a mesh, the width is gonna inherit it from the original point, from the original curve, so it doesn't matter. So just remove the point after that, and we get this. Yep. And you can have full control of that. You can say let's three frames in mid once. Yeah. 5 frames. Yep, quite cool. The second one, after that we can do something more interesting. It's basically the same setup here. What I did is only get the interesting lines. It's still every frame emit one line, but it's only within the grid, within this range, more random. If we look closer, it feels like it have a movement from top to bottom, but you don't have to really do that. You don't have to set up a movement. You don't have to set up the velocity to achieve that. It's only play on the fade animation. So I only change one thing inside the solver. I add another ramp. Basically I'm saying I want every time the top stuff, the top width is getting thinner, but the bottom is gonna be multiplied by 0.85. On top, it's gonna directly 0, and then 0.1 or something. So the top gonna fade more quickly than the bottom, and you can feel the result is like is slowly from top to bottom. Because the movement is really quick, it's really hard to catch, so we can use that to cheat. And that's basically what I'm done in here, this result. Yeah. The final thing is pretty experimental. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, but it works. So the final stuff is pick the lightning on the surface, like this, like on this character, okay? And it's also a super simple setup, nothing fancy. You can do some more stuff if you want. And as we said, and you can see like if we have a line, add the noise, it can become a lightning. So in here, what we need is to find those lines. Like we wanna finally get a result like this. We want those lines start from the surface on the picket, but not intersecting, but don't have an intersection with it. Let's back to the beginning. So we have a picket polygon here. We don't want that much line here. So I did like a poly reduce, give us fewer lines, and I drop this node convert line. You can see here. If you look at here, it's considering the face as the primitive, but in here, it's considering the lines as a primitive. Only keep the curve. And just in case I put a ray after that, ray on the original picket, just in case, because those lines might be after poly reducing gonna be off the surface. So they say before and they say after. You can say change some point position. And the next step, then we want those lines not across the surface, but they extract a little bit. So here I hit a for each loop. You can see for each line I have 2 points here, and I want to have one more point in the middle. Use edge divide. I create a, because it's a new create point, so the number gonna be always 2. So here I hit a group 2 and say push along the normal, and it's 2 straight lines now. So I hit a resample. I'll put a curve view as before. Only thing that matters is I don't want the straight. By default, it's a straight edges, but I can hit subdivision curves. It's gonna create a beautiful curve, and it's gonna be an arc. It's gonna be an arc out of the picket. It's pushing along the normal, and if we hit 0, it's gonna be like this. And yeah, you can adjust the distance if you want. They are all beautiful arc on the surface right now. And we input the picket because there are still some lines have intersection with the picket. We use bounding object, select those points inside of the picket, and then promote it to the primitive and delete it. So we have the clean surface right now. And then I don't want all of them to be lightning. I only want a little bit of it. So I did this. It's basically randomly selecting curves I need. So in here it's a modulo as before. I set like every 3 frames I wanna one emit. I can push it to 0 right now. I wanna randomly delete the curves and there only remains some of it. So I hit a random number. It's based on prime number and frame. So the random select can be influenced by time, and this is just a random seed. It doesn't matter. And if I hit something, yeah, it means I only left 0.1% of the curve, and I can do like this. Yay! It's selecting half of the curves. And in here I also set up the ID as prime number and life. We're gonna talk about life in the solver. So now frequency, let's say is 3. It doesn't really matter. And the 0.1. Maybe. Okay. Because I wanna remain some of the curves longer, and so let's have a look at this. If the life by default is 0, I've set up it in here. Life equals 0, and every frame is gonna add 1. And if the life is larger than that, it's gonna delete it. So if I say it's 8, it's gonna keep like every curve is gonna keep 8 frames. It's gonna be like this. It's still too uniform. I wanna have some more vibrance, and so random by ID, a random number by ID is gonna be 0 to 1. So I can multiply it to 8 with it, same as the average. Use average to minus variance. I can get a variance edge. Yep. It's not that uniform right now, getting better. And then the rest stuff, you don't want those fancy stuff, and because it's quite hard to see. It's quite hard to see the shape. So basically what I did here is set up blend, same thing, and set up width, basic width, and that's it. That's enough. Yeah, we get that kind of feeling. Polywire, just like before, and color. And that's it. And after I mix and more, I get the stuff like this. Okay, hope that can help. Thanks everyone.